Well, it's so good to have all of you connecting with us today. My name is Chris, and we're in part 2 of this series, Home Renovation. And this series is for you if you're a parent, a grandparent, a great-grandparent. This series is for you if one day you want to have kids, want to have a family. This series is even for you if you don't think you want to one day. Because why? All of us have been a child, a kid at some point. So this series is for you. And in this series, we're going to be looking at 5 very specific components of, renovating and making sure that we have a home of faith. In part 1, we looked at a home of blessing, and we specifically looked at this Levite prayer that God, through Moses, said, hey, pray this over all the people. We also spent time really getting an understanding of what this word blessing truly means. The word blessing means divine favor or grace. And in this Levite prayer, we got such an incredible glimpse in the heart of God. We saw that God protects, that He's present, that He smiles, and He gives us peace. And here's the thing. No matter if you want to have kids one day or not, we have to realize that God desires for us to receive His blessing. And we need to share that blessing, to receive His blessing, His grace, His divine favor, for us to realize that He desires to have a relationship with us, to protect us, to be present with us, to smile upon us, and to give us His peace. And we are to share that blessing with others. And all of that leads immediately to this second component, to have a home of love. Now, let's pause there because that word love, the word blessing, we had to, define the word blessing, what the Bible meant for blessing. But I think when it comes to the word love, we actually have to untangle this word, specifically in our day and age in which we're living. If you've ever watched a love story, a movie, whether on Hallmark or Lifetime, I haven't, but I know many of you have. If you've ever seen one of those other big box office movies, right, that there's a love storyline in there, right, you probably have heard someone say, well, we're going to fall in love. And what's interesting, and maybe you've said these words personally yourself, we just fell in love. But as soon as you state, we fell in love, it also means that you can fall out of love, doesn't it? And here's what's interesting. The Bible, how God defines, how God has modeled, how God has positioned this word love, has nothing to do with falling in or falling out. You might fall into lust. That's different. You might fall into companionship. You're lonely, so you just fell into someone who is going to be around you. But when it comes to love, you don't fall in or fall out. It's a whole list of very specific decisions. It's commitment. That's why the word covenant in the Bible is so important. Covenant has everything to do with God's part of the relationship and what He's asked us to do to be part of the relationship. And it's in His covenant that we really start to learn what love is all about. You see, this word love, we also start to use, we just use it all over the place, don't we? I say all the time, daily, to my wife, Kim, I love you. I love her. We've been married now 27 and a half years. We dated another 4.5 years before that. It's a long time. I love her, but I also would tell anyone I love espresso. No milk, no sugar, the crema on top, the really good, dark, kind of smacks you in the face espresso. I love espresso. I love to ride my road bike. And this is the epic time in Pennsylvania to get on a road bike and just go on all the back roads, the back mountains, climbing, descending. It's amazing. And for Kim and me, we love to jump on the motorcycle and just go on a ride together. I love my family. We have 2 amazing daughters. And, we've just done so much life together. We've gone on adventures together, family vacations together, special holiday, Christmas, Easter traditions together. I just love my family. And, oh, by the way, I love the Dallas Cowboys. It's frustrating. It's a brutal existence as a fan. But here's the thing. The season's going to come, and I'm going to have so much hope knowing that they're going to crush my hopes and dreams. They're going to have a horrible season, but hey, I'm still going to cheer for them. And I love the Michigan Wolverines. Go Blue. I love our family dog, Lola. She is at the center of our house. She controls our house. She runs our house, and she gets everything she wants. I also love pizza. I have almost perfected pizza dough. Every Friday, Kim and I, we have pizza at home. I make it all, and I tell you, I've been for years working on my pizza dough recipe, and it's so close, and it is so good. I love my big green egg, whether standing outside on Christmas Day with 20-degree temperatures, smoking a prime rib for Christmas dinner, or 16 hours smoking a brisket, and just waiting for the stall to get done. I love cooking on my big green egg. And, oh, by the way, I love woodworking. I love the creative side of it, where I can see what I want to create, and then, getting the wood to do that. And last, but absolutely not least, I love my mom. She is a spiritual giant in my life. I watched her and my dad change the whole trajectory of their childhoods to develop a home that is, Jesus-centric, Christ-centric. You see, as you think about all the things I love, it is a picture where we take this word love and we actually start to minimize it in ways. And to have a home of love, just maybe for you, and just maybe for me, there's some renovation that needs to do to this word love. To get back to, how God designed love to be. Today, we're going to be looking at one of the most essential declarations for the Jewish people. It was one of the most foundational prayers. They actually would pray this twice a day, in the morning and at night. And what it does is really starts to frame what a home, a house of love truly looks like. You can find it in the book of Deuteronomy, specifically in Deuteronomy chapter 6. And this is how this declaration, this prayer starts. Hear, O Israel. Now, the word hear is a Hebrew word, Shema. And in fact, for the Jewish people, this entire prayer, this entire declaration, they call it the Shema. Why? Because it starts with the word Shema. And the word Shema has 2 very important elements to that word that we translate into hear. The first component is the word listen. But it's not just listen, it's listen intently or intensely. It has this idea of someone's making an announcement and you don't want to miss their words. But on the flip side of that coin, this word Shema literally means to live out. You see, it's not just about hearing words, processing knowledge, processing the information, but it's about bringing all of that in and then having it, move you into action. What's fascinating is in the Hebrew, they didn't have a word for obey. They just didn't have that word. But they would use Shema. Why? Because it was all about listening, living out. Listening and obeying. And this prayer, this declaration starts off by saying, Shema, listen, live out. Listen, obey. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. Now, there's two very different words for Lord or God that we discover here. The first one for Lord is the Hebrew word Yahweh. Yahweh is God's personal name. It was the moment where Moses is having a conversation with God in the burning bush, and Moses just asked a very simple question. He's like, hey, when I go back to the people to tell the people everything you just told me, what's your name? What should I call you? And in that conversation, God's name, Yahweh, I will be, is given. This name is so personal. The Jewish people won't even say this name out loud. Yahweh, the Lord, Yahweh, our God. Now, the Hebrew word for God here is Elohim. This is the name for God that you discover in Genesis chapter 1 with the creation of the world. This is God, supernatural God, creator God, always have been God, always will be God. And so it starts to paint this picture of God personal, yes, but God everywhere. God present with you, yes, but God has always been and always will be. God who knows your name. Why? Because He's personal and He created you, God. That the Lord is one, we're told. Now, this was so important several thousand years ago because the Israelites were leaving captivity from Egypt. And in Egypt, they worshiped multiple gods. And God was leading them to the promised land where, well, the tribes living there were worshiping multiple gods. And God said through Moses to His people, hey, you're going to be surrounded in a culture that's going to try to get you to worship all these other gods. But you got to know, I'm the only God. I'm the true God. And again, this comes back to the covenant relationship where God is saying, this is everything I'm going to do for you. And this is what I'm asking you. Listen, obey, Shema. This is what love looks like. Now, years and years and years later, it was Jesus that came out and made such a bold statement. I and the Father are one. Jesus wasn't some additional God. That He and God, the Father, God the Son, and God the Spirit, they are one. And they're in relationship with each other. The Shema goes on and says, love the Lord your God. Love God. How do we love God? In the same way He has loved us. How do we love God? How God has modeled over and over and over again what love looks like. You see, the more you get to know God, the more you get to know Jesus, the more you understand their definition, their framework of love, the more it will move you to love like they have loved me, like they have loved you. Love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your strength. Now, what's interesting here is when we read heart, soul, and strength, right, we get this image in our mind, but it's probably vastly different than what God had intended some several thousand years ago in a different language. You see, the word heart, literally for the Jewish people, had everything to do with your emotions and your mind, your feelings and your thoughts. For the Jewish people, thousands of years ago, they didn't have a concept of the brain. They just didn't. And so they would talk about the heart as, well, encompassing, again, your emotions and your thoughts, your mind and your feelings. And we're to love God with all of that inward parts of who we are. But then God tells us to love him with all your soul. And we probably think of soul in like Casper the Friendly Ghost. Like we have this ghost within us, and it kind of one day will float away when we pass away. We have this thing in us that, it's maybe not really a ghost, but we kind of think about it in that way. But it will go away when our body dies. But for the Jewish people, the word for soul, it was this word nephesh. And they would never say that you have a soul. What they would say is you are a soul. You are nephesh. That you are life. This word in the Hebrew, nephesh, had everything to do with, your physical existence. So you're to love the Lord your God with all your heart, your thoughts, your feelings, your emotions, your mind, and your soul, your entire physical existence. And then to love God with your strength. And when we hear the word strength, we think about, strength and power. But this word, is an adjective. It's miod, is a Hebrew word. And it means, very or much. Go back to Genesis 1, the creation account. When God created mankind, human beings, he said that it was very good. It was miod good. It was very, same word. And so what God is saying is that we need to love him with our heart, our entire internal existence, our life, our nephesh, our soul, our physical existence. And we are to do that, and one scholar framed it this way, and we are to love God with all of our muchness, with every element of who we are, how God created us, our uniqueness, our individuality, our creativity, our personality, with every single component of our being. We are to love God. It was Jesus, when someone asked him, hey, what's the greatest commandment? Jesus quoted the Shema. This is what he quoted. He was like, hey, you know what the Bible says? You know the greatest prayer? The essential declaration of the Old Testament, he quoted this. But what Jesus continued to do was to really narrow in on this idea of love. You see, Jesus went on to say that we are to love one another. Who's my neighbor? Anyone and everyone. But Jesus, do you really mean everyone? And Jesus is like, your enemies, those who persecute you, those who don't like you, those that maybe you don't like. Like, love is about everyone. Again, Jesus modeled love. He goes, love one another as I have loved you. Jesus is like, hey, I've modeled love for you. This is what love looks like. Now you go and love others too, in the same way. Well, the Shema goes on, and we're told that these commandments that I give you today are to be on your hearts. And remember, that word heart means mind as well. To be in your thoughts, to be in your emotions, to be in your feelings, that these commandments should run through every part of your being. And impress them on your children. The Hebrew word for impress literally means a knife and a sharpening stone. It's the image of a dull blade, and you want to keep it sharp so its usefulness is at its peak performance. It's a knife that maybe it's got nicked a little bit, and you want to clean up that nick on that knife edge, and so you're running against the stone. It's like, hey, keep the knife sharp. So it's the best use of it. It's effectiveness. And God goes, impress this on your children. Talk about them when you sit at home and when you walk along the road, when you lie down and when you get up. Tie them as symbols on your hands, bind them on your foreheads, write them on the door frames of your houses and on your gates. Hey, parents, hey, grandparents. I mean, think about how extensive this is. No matter where you go, no matter what part of the day, no matter how what you're doing or what you're not wanting to do, no matter how early or how late, at every moment, at every turn, in every juncture, guess what? You are to impress these commands on your kids. And it starts with love God. And Jesus said, and love each other. Now, let's pause there for a moment. Parents, I get the storm of calendar craziness that you're facing. Parenting, it takes so much time and so much energy. No matter the stage you're in, whether you're in the young stage and all you're doing is running after kids. I remember that stage. I would just follow Claire, our youngest, wherever she ran because she was that active kid. Or maybe you're in the stage where it's sports and rehearsals and school and activities and after school and before school and you're just the chauffeur. You're the Uber driver just driving them around everywhere. Or maybe you're coming in kind of the ending years, but now your energy to help your kids become an adult. Right now, it's just shifting. It's looking different. I just want you to pause for a moment. Thousands of years ago, God, through Moses, told us to impress these things on our kids. Early in the morning, late at night. When you're walking, when you're sitting. Tie them. Etch them on your door frame. Everywhere you go and everywhere you go, you as a parent, as a grandparent, need to impress them on your kids, on your grandkids. You see, in 2024, this country alone spent $390 billion with a B dollars on what? Marketing. Marketing. And what groups of people have the most disposable income? Teenagers, young adults, college students, kids. $390 billion. And this is the obstacle that as parents, as grandparents, we just have to realize. Our culture is leveraging a ton of capital to get your kids' attention. And that's why this Shema is so timely now, thousands of years later. Why? Because they're trying everything they can to captivate your child. But we as parents, God has called us to be the voice to help our kids, no matter their age, grow in their spiritual journey. So there's three very specific actions I just want to encourage you with. Remember the word Shema, not just for you to listen to what I'm going to say, but for you to live out, for you to obey. Three very specific actions when it comes to, well, renovating your home as a home of love. The first one that I just want to encourage you with, you got to move Jesus to the center. I've said this line, it's not just about having a Christian home. I think so many people just kind of fall into that trap. Oh yeah, we have a Christian home. We have Christians in our home, but that's not the pursuit. The pursuit is having a Jesus-centric, a Christ-centric house where Jesus is at the center of every decision, of every moment. Again, this is the Shema, right? When you wake up, when you go to bed, when you walk, when you sit, tie them, etch them, and every part of your home should have Jesus at the center. And here's the number one tool that Satan uses to move Jesus off center. For you to, I don't know if you ever did Elf on the Shelf, right? The elf moved around the house, and then when Christmas is done, well, you know what happened with the elf. But I think this happens, usually not intentionally, but also we just put Jesus on the shelf. And when we need him, when we want him, when all of a sudden we're like, oh no, it's been a while, we move him off the shelf, and now we're like, oh Jesus, we need you, and then he just gets put back on. And my encouragement for you is to move Jesus to the center of your home. And the number one tool that Satan uses to get Jesus out of the center of your home is busyness. It just is. It just is. Maxed out schedules, early morning, late nights, practices, saying yes one or two or more too many times. And all of a sudden you've committed yourself, you've committed, if you're married, your spouse, you've committed kids. Like all of a sudden you've overcommitted. And then you try to convince yourself, it's just a season, it's a season. And when we get out of this season, then it'll be better. And guess what happens? You keep overcommitting. And I think it's the number one tool Satan uses to move Jesus out of the center of your home. And so my encouragement, and this is so super simple, you got to prioritize. You got to. You have to. If you're married, you need to sit down with your spouse, open up your calendar, and just realize that, guess what? You can busy Jesus out of your kids' lives. And all of a sudden one day you're going to wake up, they're going to be off college, they're going to be in their adult years, and not want anything to do with God, and you're going to wonder what you've done. And I'm just going to tell you, you busied Jesus out of their lives. What do you need to do to reprioritize? I think most families are just one or two decisions away from flipping the whole thing and putting Jesus back at the center. What do you need to say no to? What do you need to say no to? That leads to the next action. You got to make spiritual growth a priority for you personally. For you personally. If you're not growing spiritually, your kids won't. If your spiritual growth is not a priority, it won't be for your kids. If you aren't elevating your prayer time, your study time, your coming to church time, your serving time, I'm just saying, if that's not an elevated priority for you to say, God, I'm going to put my relationship with you number one, it won't be for your kids. It won't be. It won't be. One of the things our girls grew up loving to do is to serve at church. Because one of the things we started from the earliest of ages is church wasn't just for them to come and sit and consume. The church was a part that was something we did as a family where we were always actively serving. And now that they're adults, they just want to serve. It's just part of who they are. But another thing we did in the busyness of our rhythm as a family was, well, we just kept a priority of dinner. Dinner was just always a priority. And it's the number one thing, honestly, that is splintering families in our country is that families aren't taking dinner as a priority. They're not eating dinner together. Not only did we eat dinner together, phones weren't allowed at the dinner table. Like you couldn't bring one there. And then we did something so intentional. And every time we ate dinner together, and which was most nights of the week, we did something called highs and lows. And everyone had to share one high and one low. Now, if you had a horrible day and someone was like, well, I don't have a high, we would make them mine for a high to say, hey, no, there was something today. Even if you had a bad day, you can find a high. But this is what it allowed us to do, to speak spiritual truth into our kids' lives, just in the events of their day. It allowed Kim and I to spiritually impress into them, because usually it was some relationship, some kid, some friend, some not friend, a teacher, or a coach. There was something there. It was all relational and allowed us to spiritually press into them. Hey, parents, you are the number one discipler of your kids' lives. You are. It's not us as a church. We have great Kids Rock and Velocity Student Ministry teams. I tell you, it takes a village raising kids. I get that. But you, as a parent, need to know that you are the spiritual influence, the spiritual discipler of your kids, the primary one. We want to help equip you, but you got to do it. That's why you got to reprioritize to free up some time, so maybe you can just eat dinner together so that you can impress in your kids who God is and that God loves them and what love looks like, which leads to this third action. You got to model Jesus' love. You as a parent got to model it, which also means, right, that's why your spiritual growth is so important. You got to know what Jesus' love looks like. And he taught a lot on it. He modeled it all the time. But you as a parent have to model it. Maybe you're in a divorce situation. My encouragement for you, especially if you have an ex-spouse that's really difficult to work with, you're modeling for your kid what Jesus' love looks like or what it doesn't look like. You are. What you choose to say about your ex-spouse to your child, around your child, whether you think they're listening or not, or what you choose not to say, is what modeling Jesus' love looks like. Last year, my youngest child, Claire, graduated. And as she came into her senior year, she was going to soccer practice. They were doing 2-a-days. The official season hadn't started, but it was her senior year to play soccer, and she had played soccer since she was 4 or 5. But as she came in, the coach, in a very loving but direct way, let her know that she probably wouldn't make the starting lineup. And I tell you, that was hard for her. It was hard for me as a dad. It was hard for Kim, my wife, as a mom. It was her senior year, and to think that we'd be sitting watching her sit on the bench for a lot of the time was difficult. But again, we had an opportunity to impress into her, to say, hey, what does love look like in this? I remember as she made her way through 2-days, we were talking more and more about, hey, Claire, you can still be a leader. Leaders don't need position. In fact, Jesus led by modeling servanthood. I go, so Claire, just serve the team. And again, there's days she wanted to, there's days she didn't. There's days she was really frustrated about not getting some playing time, and there's days where she was okay with it. But she was working through this process, and we kept on coming back to what does leadership look like? What does serving look like? What does love look like? She started carrying the ball bags after the games back to the bus. She started picking up trash around the benches. She started to walk beside the other players, just encouraging them. And I watched her leadership continue to grow. Well, they got into the very beginning of the season, and it was time for them to pick captains. And I'll never forget when Claire came home that night, because the team overwhelmingly picked her as one of the 3 captains. The coach overwhelmingly affirmed that. And even though the entire season she never started, and a lot of games she didn't play much at all, she was a captain because she served. And that's what love looks like. Hey, parents, you're modeling, you're impressing their spiritual growth. God has put you as point leader to be the parent, to spiritually mold your kids. So hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. Love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your strength. These commandments that I give you today are to be on your hearts. Impress them on your children. Talk about them when you sit at home and when you walk along the road, when you lie down and when you get up. Tie them as symbols on your hands and bind them on your foreheads. Write them on the doorsteps of your houses and on your gates. Hear, O Israel, the Lord your God, the Lord is one. Let's pray. Lord, I just ask that we'll take these words to heart. That we as parents, no matter what stage of parenting we're in, or grandparents, that we will impress upon our kids your love, and your call for us to love each other. In your name I pray, amen.